policing advisor and former Detective Chief Superintendent Roy McComb. Thanks for being with us, Roy. First of all, I wonder if you can just sort of clue us in on, we know this person has been arrested now, what practically happens now? What will officers be doing? And also, what are some of the timelines within which police have to operate, the legally set down timelines of how long they can hold people for?
Yes, good afternoon. So legally, they have arrested him under the Police and Criminal Evidence Act, and that means that the police have 24 hours from the point of his detention before they either have to release him or seek an extension to his detention of a further 12 hours, up to 36. That can be ultimately extended up to 96 hours with the authority of a court. It's interesting, the fact that he's been arrested in South Yorkshire. What we don't know is whether he is from the South Yorkshire area or has simply left the local area in Devon and Cornwall and has travelled to South Yorkshire potentially to evade detection. So there's a number of lines of inquiry the police will be undertaking in relation to his movements, his activity, where he was when he was arrested, if it's his family home, what information or evidence may be present in his home. That'll be the subject of a fairly rigorous forensic search. When he was arrested, even though there has been a delay of a couple of days since the apparent timeline of the murder, he will be subject to forensic examination to see if the police can find evidence on his body, perhaps hair transfers, blood, some type of DNA transmitted from the actual act of committing the murder. All of that will be consideration. And that's why when the Chief Constable is talking about the police investigation moving at lightning pace, what you don't see is the vast amount of activity that the police are doing that is not seen in the public domain, but is happening at this time around forensic evidence, CCTV evidence, other types of digital evidence is being gathered. The movements of this individual will be critical to the police investigation, and they are speaking with confidence about the investigation, which I think is quite telling.
We heard Devon and Cornwall police there saying that counter-terror officers were involved in Yorkshire, but this wasn't being treated as terror-linked. Why would they be involved, and yet this is not being treated as terror? What might the explanation be there?
The first thing to remember is, policing is largely a national construct. It may be operated and delivered in regions, in counties and cities, but largely they work very closely together. So when one organisation, one part of the policing family needs the support of its colleagues in another part of the policing family, then they come to their aid. So what I think has happened is not that this is a declaration of a terrorist incident, but they've simply called upon the greater tactical capabilities of the counter-terrorism unit that is operating in the northeast of England to bring in specialist equipment, perhaps to conduct a rapid search, a rapid breach. Perhaps they've used firearms officers because of a level of risk posed from the investigation to date. So I wouldn't read too much into the fact that they're using counter-terrorism officers, other than I think they're using them for a tactical benefit for the investigation rather than an investigative benefit at this time.
And they've been very, very careful about what information they release. Often when they are sort of appealing for information, when police are appealing for information, we've kind of grown used to CCTV being put out as part of an appeal. They didn't do that in this instance. And I think you heard the Assistant Chief Constable there talk about how information releases are because of them wanting to protect the integrity of the investigation. Why might a police force decide that actually it's not in their best interest to do things like a CCTV appeal?
Well, the release of information can be a very finely judged decision point. If the police have got to the point where they clearly don't know who the suspect is, then they would decide to release that information to gather information and support from the public. In this scenario, it does appear that the police know who the person was, have a level of confidence about his involvement in the investigation. The fact that they're making a statement to the effect of "we're not looking for anybody else" tells me that they are very confident that they've identified the perpetrator of this horrendous crime, and they're obviously making the judgment that to release the information into the public domain could prejudice the investigation by way of identification evidence. As one example, you may find that releasing that information could prejudice a potential identification process that the police may wish to be considering. So at this point, the statements of the police seem to suggest a level of confidence about who this person was and his involvement in this crime, and they're not releasing that information in order to protect the integrity of the investigation as it hopefully goes to the Crown Court and the judicial process.
Given there was, we know, 24 hours between this apparent attack and Ann Widdecombe being found at her home, how difficult is a lag like that, a delay like that, when it comes to progressing the investigation and trying to track down a suspect?
Yes, it definitely causes a difficulty. The longer it takes for police to get involved in the investigation, the greater the loss of evidence. And, in a scenario where we're reading between the lines here, the suspect has had a full 24 hours to get away from the crime scene, has had the opportunity to, create an alibi, potentially has an opportunity to destroy evidence, whether in digital form or maybe some form of forensic evidence. So the police are always in any murder investigation working behind the curve effectively. And what they have to do is rapidly move at great pace to try to get on top of the investigation and try to catch up with the evidence that could otherwise be being lost. So any delay in the investigation, whether the commencement of the investigation or any delay because of police activity or inactivity, can have a prejudicial impact on the investigation.
Okay, Roy McComb, really interesting stuff, taking us behind what might be going on in that inquiry into that apparent murder. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.